Hello Fremantle parents and carers, and thank you for taking the time to watch this video. My name is Mr. Seymour and I'm the reading lead and one of the Year 6 teachers at Fremantle. If you've read any of my letters over the last few months, you'll have heard me say many times how important reading is to your child's education. Research shows a very clear link between the amount of time pupils spend reading for pleasure and how highly they achieve at all levels of education. This year at Fremantle, we have invested heavily in reading, and one of the new things we have purchased is a program called Accelerated Reader. The aim of this video is to show you what Accelerated Reader is, explain why we're using it, and hopefully put you in a position where you can use it to encourage your child to read for pleasure at home, which of course will then help them to be more successful at school. An important point before I begin: you can only log into Accelerated Reader using the link provided on your child's letter, which they should have brought home over the last week or two. This link is also provided on your child's class page, the school's Facebook page, and you can see it up here at the top. We recommend bookmarking it, and I also sent home a QR code so that you can scan it with a camera or a QR scanner on a phone or tablet device. So, Accelerated Reader is an online program, but it is not an e-books platform. Children do not read books on Accelerated Reader. Instead, they read the books they normally would, and then they take a short quiz on that book on Accelerated Reader. Pupils log in, as I am doing now, using the same login details as they would to log into Timetables Rockstars. They navigate to the Accelerated Reader panel, and they'll be taken to their own part of Accelerated Reader. Once your child has finished reading a book, they can log in and use the Find a Book search function to look for the book they've just read. I've read a book with Year 6 recently called Cicada, and I just make sure I'm choosing the right book. The author was Shaun Tan. At this point, I take a quiz, indicate how I read it. So I read this by myself. Some of the quizzes will have an option to have the questions read out to children, which can be very useful for younger children, developing readers, or pupils who are learning English as an additional language. I start the quiz, and I'm shown a series of questions between 3 and 20, depending on the length of the book. This quiz is not designed to be difficult, and it does not draw on any reading skills beyond children's simple comprehension of what they have just read. All it is testing is how closely they read and understood the book they just read. This book is quite short, so it only has 5 questions, and the pass rate for a book of this length, and for most books, is 60%. So once I've finished, Accelerated Reader will ask your child to rate the book. This doesn't affect their score or anything beyond the recommendations that Accelerated Reader makes to them. At the end of every quiz, your child will be told how they've done, but they will not have the opportunity to retake the quiz. What this is checking is how well your child understood the book they just read. At this point, we get the percentage correct. We get the number of points your child has earned by reading, and this is tied to some of the many rewards we have brought in this year to incentivise reading at Fremantle. And it also tells them how many words they have read, and this is tracked over time, so your child will have a record of how many words they have read over their entire time at Fremantle from this point forwards. This TOPS report is something that you may be interested in, and it's something that I'd recommend you take a look at now and again. If I click on it, I get a report of the quiz I just took, but also my quizzing progress over time, and as a parent this might be something you're very interested in looking at. So this is all about what I've just read and the quiz I did. Down here though is what you may be interested in as a parent, because in the autumn term we can see that I've averaged on all the quizzes I've done, which is 12, a score of 92.5%. So Accelerated Readers say any child scoring 85% plus has a very good understanding of the book they've just read. It also tells me how many points your child has earned this term, an average book level, and we'll be talking about book levels and ZPDs in a minute, how many words they've read, so we can see here I've read 646,000, and how many quizzes I've taken and passed. This can be really useful information to track how much reading your child is doing, but also how they are doing with their reading, because if a child is scoring very low, we would suggest that maybe the books they are choosing are too high, or they need some additional support while reading because they are not understanding what they are reading. You can also check your child's progress by logging in using their details and clicking the progress panel at the top here. While we of course hope your child enjoys the quizzing aspect of Accelerated Reader, your child's class teacher also gains a lot of information about your child's reading ability based on these quizzes and half-termly Accelerated Reader assessments we are now doing in school. We plan on sharing much of this with you as we go forward. As well as their login details, your child will have come home with a ZPD, a Zone of Proximal Development. This is a term and a score in this case that refers to the difficulty of books your child should ideally be reading to ensure they are developing as readers at the quickest rate. Books within this range are judged to be just challenging enough to ensure they are progressing with their reading without being too tricky so as to put them off reading or too easy so as to be boring. While we would never say to a child they cannot read a book outside of their ZPD, we aim for the majority of the books they read to fall within this category, as these are the books that will allow them to progress the quickest. If you find that your child is often changing books, not finishing books, or finding books too difficult, check the ZPD of these books using a website called AR Bookfind. And this is also a website that you and your child can use to search for new, exciting books. By using this website, which is free and you don't have to sign up for, you can search using a detailed range of criteria for books that your child will enjoy reading. You can of course search by title, by authors or series that they may like, but what Accelerated Reader provides here is the ability to search by ZPD. So we can use an interest range criteria here to make sure we're choosing books that are going to interest pupils based on their maturity and their age. We can also use a ZPD. So I might have a ZPD of 4.1 to 5.5. I can also search by topics and things and interests, but I'm not going to here. Search. So this gives me a huge list, frankly too big, so I needed to use more of the search functions of books that fall within my ZPD. On AR Bookfind, you will also find a parent's guide to Accelerated Reader and using Bookfinder, as well as this section over here, where if you enter the key code that your child brought home on the original Accelerated Reader letter, which is DQ669545, and click go, you'll be taken to your child's class teacher's recommended reading list. So while there's nothing stopping you from looking at recommended reading lists from previous or later years, your child's class teacher has compiled a list of books that span a wide ZPD range and are often books that previous children in that year have enjoyed. So you can come into one of the recommended reading lists, scroll down, and we can look at some of the information. So we can see that here the book level is 2. So this is great for anyone whose ZPD spans through 2. This one here is 6.4, so more challenging. We get a little bit of information about the book, a rating based on all the children across the country using Accelerated Reader, as well as the number of points they will get from reading. By adding it to AR Book Bag, and then having a look in the book bag itself, your child can keep a wish list of books that they would like to read over the coming months or years. Lastly, why are we using Accelerated Reader at Fremantle? Research obviously shows reading is incredibly important, but we know it can be difficult to encourage children to read at home sometimes. We hope the quizzing elements, word count tracking, and rewards we have planned in school will help to encourage children to read at home. Secondly, the information quizzing and assessing through Accelerated Reader provides your class teacher is incredibly detailed, and that will help us to provide the very best tailored support and, if necessary, intervention to help your child on their journey as a reader. Lastly, you are the most important person in your child's reading journey. We want to be able to share more information about your child's reading with you, and through AR and our reports, we'll now be able to share more information with you than ever before, which we hope you'll be able to use to help your child become the best reader possible. I hope this brief introduction to Accelerated Reader has helped you to see what it is and how we're using it, and moving forward, you feel more able to help your child at home with their reading as a result. Quizzing is a very important part of our reading provision moving forward at Fremantle. Please help your child by making sure they quiz any book they finish, which is on Accelerated Reader, and you can check this by using either of the websites I've shown you today, within 24 hours of finishing the book. Your child can quiz on a phone, a tablet, a laptop or a computer, and absolutely no personal information is shared on Accelerated Reader. Homework this year is very much focused on reading, and we'll be tracking how much children do through their reading journals that will be coming home this week and their quizzing. Once again, thank you for your time, and please do get in touch with either myself or your child's class teacher using the info@fremantleschool.co.uk email address if we can do anything else to help you and your child with their reading at home.